So I actually want to start with a gentle way of starting easing into this, and that is just we've been on screen all day long, so let's just do some vagal toning. Let's bring our hands into our face, maybe, and gently massage. See how it feels, your eyes, around your eyes. You've been concentrating on looking to the screen all day long. We never give ourselves time to really just feel our bodies, feel the eye tension maybe. Yeah, you can just massage around your temples, and this is one of my favorite vagal toning exercise I learned from Maria, and that is really toning around your ears. You can bring your hands into your ears, really inviting your nervous system to gently ease in. Like Kat said, we can be in the threshold of safety. So it's a good invitation to bring our nervous system back into regulation. So one of the ways you can do is really play around your ears and really massage. And see how it feels when you gently pull. Yeah. Around the ear, that cartilage. Opening your mouth, maybe like, just getting it all out. So I will start talking about self-compassion, but I will try to give breaks like this because I also want to see you, your faces, right? Social engagement is so important for my nervous system. And I want to have this really interactive. So let's see. So I don't want the slide to be in between us all the time, what I'm saying. Okay, so self-compassion, the hidden treasure for a thriving nervous system. This presentation is not only a demonstration of knowledge, but also a reflection of lived experience, values, and my professional growth. So I will be focusing on two questions, basic questions around why does self-compassion is inaccessible for so many people, especially during difficult times. I don't know if you all experienced this. Clients come into the session and they should quote unquote feel self-compassion, but it is really quite hard. And how could it be used as a clinical intervention for clinicians? So I'll be drawing from different places, right? Neurobiology, affect regulation, and some of the stuff is I might really go quicker than I thought because it's already been mentioned, the safety, the Lily mentioned the implicit learning. There's a lot of things that I will probably be pulling from what we already be presented with. And I will also be offering some basic and clinical applicable ways for clinicians, for us, can support this process. So here are a few pictures of my thresholds in life that I've been through. I can say, I guess, there's a time in my life when I could sit with very intense pain, anxiety, uncertainty, cancer diagnosis. And I really knew how to endure it. But when I tried to offer myself even just a small gesture of kindness, like placing my hand in my heart or saying, oh, this is really hard, Didem, something in me would start tightening, my chest would contract, I would quickly want to brush it off, don't want to stay with it. And that was confusing because I thought self-compassion was supposed to be soothing, right? What began to shift things was not what I told myself, actually, but how I was met through safe relationship. Some of them are, like I said, my mentors, my teachers, my students. They are here now. Through presence, through care and attunement. Something slowly became possible inside me. I began to feel moments of softness, moments of maybe ability to stay with my own pain just a little bit more. So, compassion is not a idea, it's a felt experience. And that's when I understood self-compassion is something we sort of we think it's not like we can think ourselves through. It becomes possible through safety, relationships, and body awareness. And it's not a skill. I will keep repeating this. It's a capacity. And what we don't talk about enough is what happens when the body does not recognize kindness as safety. So from there, that's where I will be placing my attention in this presentation. So how we typically understand self-compassion, for a second, let's just take a look. In many clinical and popular psychology, self-compassion is often taught as a cognitive skill, right? Being nicer to ourselves, changing self-critical thoughts, reframing our inner dialogue. And yes, for some people, this can be quite helpful. It can be a good starting point. However, a consistent clinical and professional observation complicates this way of seeing. Many clients understand self-compassion cognitively, but they cannot access it in experience, right? In an experiential way. They know what to say to themselves, but it just doesn't land. Instead of soothing, it activates actually their shame, threat, or shutdown responses. And these clients are not resistant. They are often highly aware of what's going on within themselves. So the question becomes, the question is not how to teach self-compassion better, right? But why it becomes inaccessible under stress. So at this point, I want to slow down and name something many clinicians have encountered. Again, I will be repeating. Clients might come in and they might just say, I know what self-compassion is, but I don't feel it. I try to be kind to myself, but it just really does not. It feels fake, right? I had this client, for example, I will just share this. Even when I use maybe few times the word of self-compassion, I could just see her body tightening. And she would not even, and one time I think she said, don't tell me that word. I don't want to hear that word. So I start not using that word. And months of working with her, I think while we were doing closing session, because we all finished our internship, she said she used the word self-compassion. And I was like, oh my gosh, you just used that word. So that's how that can be really threatening for a client, for anyone that has not had this felt experience of self-compassion. So I had my social engagement a little bit, so now I'm back to the slides. So instead of soothing, self-compassion attempts, like I said, can trigger shame, threats, emotional flooding. That's another one. And this is often the moment where both clients and the clinician feel stuck, right? Because if we say in a cognitive framework, it's easy to assume the client is resistant. The client is not trying hard enough. The technique needs to be psychoeducated and explained better and better. What I want to suggest instead is the issue is not the understanding, it's the capacity, building tolerance. So here's what my teacher says. The goal of regulating emotion is not to make feelings go away. Rather, the aim is to help clients build their capacity to ride the waves of big emotions and sensations. We offer co-regulation through a steady, compassionate, and attuned relational presence, right? Dr. Ariel Schwartz. So I sort of like start wondering, like, in my past lives, I was an engineer, so I really like analyzing things. Like, what is happening with these clients? So why is it feeling unsafe? So I sort of came up with 4 categories, right? First is maybe care has been really paired with pain, right? In their early childhood experience, the neglect, inconsistency, intrusion. So care can really equate to danger for them. Another reason can be compassion can activate the vulnerability, the softness, the soft belly, right? Opening up to the softness can be quite threatening. It can bring a lot of agitation, anxiety, and like I said, shutdown and numbness. And the third reason can be shame, might be getting triggered. We call this in backdraft in self-compassion world. It's a phenomenon where offering your self-compassion initially triggers a surge of previously suppressed shame, pain, and emotional distress. And there can be also, as a fourth reason, self-protection overrides compassion. So, what is compassion really then? So let's just pause and feel our bodies again. And maybe you can just, as an act of kindness, you can just pull your eyes out of screen and take a deep breath and soften yourself for a second. I know I need it, so I'm just regulating myself and looking at all of you. Yeah. So without safety, there can be no self-compassion. And I will give you the definition and neurobiological explanation. So there are two definitions I really like. Goethe et al. Says a feeling that arises in witnessing another's suffering and that motivates a subsequent desire to help. And Neff defines self-compassion. I put it in quote because it's funny, the self, in Buddhist psychology. Anyways, I'm not going to go in there. Self-compassion versus compassion is not quite different. Being touched by one's own suffering, responding with care and understanding rather than harsh self-judgment, recognizing one's experience as a part of common human condition. So my engineering mind goes into definition. Take this one. Compassion equals sensitivity to suffering and then motivation to care. So there's a lot of evolutionary system. There's a reason why self-compassion is there. I'm aware of time. I don't think I can go to the depth of that, but it's really evolutionarily came to the surface. It really we needed the tribal care to survive. And there had to be some sort of reward system behind this caring for each other. So then caring for each other and ourselves began the compassion. So the research shows higher self-compassion actually brings more pro-social behavior instead of there's this thing around, oh, if I become compassionate or self-compassionate, I'm selfish. It's complete opposite, right? So self-compassion expands rather than narrows the relational capacity. So here we are, again, the capacity word is here. But before we go further, I just want to take you into a very quick self-to-self relational accessing experiential. So if that feels good for you, I will just guide you for maybe 5 minutes to this experiential. Yeah? Okay. So I guess I can just say either eyes closed or eyes open, doesn't matter. Just take yourself into a grounded presence and bring to someone or something or even a presence that feels caring, safe, and supportive for you. This could be a person or a spiritual figure or a teacher. And now imagine this person or presence is with you in a moment that you are really struggling. And then imagine them looking at you with warmth, with compassionate gaze. Look into their facial expression, their tone, their presence. And then start noticing the sensations in your body as you're receiving this compassion or attunement. Notice their posture. Notice their emotions. Like Kat said in the previous slide presentation, I've got you. They have this presence. I've got you. And now, if it feels good, gently explore what it might be like to offer that same quality to yourself. not forcing it, just allowing the possibility. Like, I see you, Didem. Yeah. Use your own name. Notice what happens as you relate to yourself in this way. Again, track the sensations, the breath, the body. If this feels natural, subtle, and distant, and even difficult, that's okay. Just welcome that. And as you stay with this for a moment, just take a note of what you observe. Any sensations, like I said, warmth, softening, any like somatic trademarks for us. And now let go of the image. Notice yourself coming back into the room. And maybe with just one word, write down what you just experienced, coming it from another person or another presence to you, that creating the cultivation of self-compassion rather than just like giving it to yourself and right? Ease. Yeah. Thank you, Taylor. That's it. No one else felt anything? Peace, steady. Thank you. Yeah. Freedom, open, relief, comfort, softness. Yeah. Regulated, tenderness. Oh my gosh, it's raining now. Great. Okay, I will keep going. I'm not even looking the time. Can you? Okay, 12 minutes. Perfect. Okay, I wanted to make sure that is part of what we do now before I go more cerebral places, right? So commonly what comes up is felt sense experiences, open-heartedness, expansion in the chest, a felt sense of connection rather than isolation, feeling supported, cared for, and not alone, and all the things that you wrote, right? So let's take another breath. So what do I mean by capacity? So the capacity is how much emotional experience the nervous system can tolerate while staying regulated. So Siegel says how much softness, warmth, or vulnerability can be felt without triggering survival responses. So here's Siegel's famous window of tolerance. I won't go into the depth of all of that. We already covered with many presentations. But I want to say one thing. Self-compassion is state dependent. It requires a system that can remain regulated, meaning inside the window of tolerance, while encountering vulnerability, care, and emotional pain. So we need to have our clients feel resourced enough to go in there, right? Because if we start attempting or evoking, okay, let's just come into the compassion, there can be a feeling of shame, overwhelm, and shutdown, like I said. So it's a very critical shift in that way. What appears as resistance is often a protective response. The body knows, the body is really aware how to protect itself. There's a wisdom behind it, right? And that does not yet, if the body has not yet experienced compassion, it can't quite feel threatening. To understand this more deeply, we will look into how self-compassion is organized in the brain and the body. Let's go in there. Okay, so internalization starts in relational learning. I want to keep bringing relational aspect again and again. So interpersonal biology tells us co-regulation, right? The polyvagal theory and Siegel, all of these people, Alan Shore, they all talk about co-regulation comes before self-regulation. That is the reason why we did that experiential, starting with a compassionate gaze coming towards our way, because we need that relational aspect first. A core principle attachment and interpersonal neurobiology is that self-regulation develops out of co-regulation. Early in life, distress is regulated by another nervous system, hopefully our mother or father, right? Safety, soothing, and emotional repair happen in relationship first. Over time, these repeated experiences are internalized and become the foundation of self-regulation. Thank you, neuroplasticity, right? Like what we really repeat keeps becoming internalized. Applied to compassion. Applied to compassion, this means something is very critical here. Self-compassion depends on having first experienced compassion in relationship, right? Like being attuned, feeling felt. I really like this one, Dan Siegel's term, feeling felt. So when someone holds space and witnesses our feelings, we begin to develop that same gentleness towards ourselves. So that's why it's a very much a community work. If care is inconsistent, absent, or overwhelming early on, compassion, especially directed inward, like I said, right? Going back into that 4 reasons why, where is it? This one. It can feel like it's a big danger. Instead of soothing, it may activate shame, threat, and emotional shutdown. Okay, so Siegel says self-compassion is actually a way of self-to-self relating, and Siegel defines self as something that develops within relationship. How we regulate to ourselves reflects how we were first related by others. That's why it's a relational capacity. So I just want to pause here and come back into the relationship, come back into the room. Yeah, so this might bring grief for some of us, right? Depending on what kind of houses we grow. The relational capacity might be something that we are learning after many years, right? So I just want to honor that if that is also arising right now. Okay, ready? Ready to go back, jump back in? Okay. So, like I said, new learning can always happen, the neuroplasticity. So if we are internalizing the shame, the what happened to us, the trauma, we can also, this is called positive neuroplasticity. Another thing I learned from Ariel is internalize compassion, right? It's this, we can internalize compassion too. I have many clients actually who, like I said, are really surprised their in relationship system are shifting. Because they've been, being met with compassion, with a presence, feeling felt, they start speaking to themselves kinder. And they are also really like, they start noticing when they are in pain. Okay, so let's look again to the neurobiology of compassion with the limited time we have. How compassion works in the brain and the body. So there's a 3-stage model, I call it, but so what happens is, I will start from the beginning. Okay, insight alone does not create regulation. A client can intellectually understand, but like I said, if they are not inside the window of tolerance, they don't have the access for compassion. Self-compassion depends on the nervous system state, like I said. When the nervous system is in threat, such as sympathetic activation, or in collapse, or they are in dorsal shutdown, they are in survival mode. I always teach it this way in my classes, like, it's really hard to feel compassion towards yourself when you're running from a lion, right? When you are in constant danger, when you have to be like in survival mode. There's no time to sit and think through or like feel it through. Your body is positioning to keep you safe. So what happens is with this 3-stage model, there is this detection of suffering, right? When we start feeling the compassion, we are starting to pay attention to our pain, right? Where we are struggling, where we are feeling the pain. So that can really resemble a threat activation for the brain. There are studies, Singer and Klimecki, they have a study on this. And then from that point, once the noticing, gentle, being mindful of the pain, there needs to be another system coming into place, and that is regulation and care system activation, meaning prefrontal regulation prevents the stress, shifts towards the caregiving system. So it's the nature of compassion. What I'm saying is, first feeling the pain, first really feeling you are struggling with it, and then like, oh, how can I soothe this? What can I give to myself? So there's a level of activation happening in the nervous system. And if you already have a very narrow window of tolerance, right, the activation will throw you out of the window. So that is the main reason why clients have struggled with this. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. Versus if you start widening, right, you can stay in the window of tolerance, and then the caring system, like, oh, what can I do for myself? Like, right, there's this prefrontal cortex is still online. So it's quite different. So that's the main neurobiological explanation of this. And then there's something amazing nature does, and that is the reward system. When we start feeling compassion, there's this oxytocin is like the bonding, right? The nature wants us to be good, wants us to survive, wants us to really help each other. So there's this self-reinforcing happening. Okay, I know I have 3 minutes. What might shift in the client with this work? Right? Like I said, there's initial activation and then gradual softening. And then there can be a feel of sense of warmth and openness and connection. So from activation, the system starts moving towards soothing, right? That's the logic behind this. Okay, so I'm really coming to the end. Safety before self-compassion. So here are 3 states, and you can see when the system is in safety, then compassion is accessible. And how can we as therapists then embody this kind of work without really talking them through, or without using the S, right? S word, or like self-compassion as word? And that is like really attuning with them through the facial affect, mirroring, the gaze, a relaxed jaw, not having a sudden gaze withdrawal when they are in the midst of feeling vulnerable, tone of voice, what kind of prosody, pace of speech we are using. Just really pay attention. Even I am like slowing everything down and notice what's happening in the moment in your nervous system. So last minute is gonna be about, so what do we do, Didem? Do not mistake inaccessibility for resistance is one thing I really want to emphasize. I just add this from Cecily. Sensory check-in. Just check in with their sensory system and see, for neurodivergent people, eye contact can be challenging, right? And then letting them know, like, I'm here. I'm not going to look all the time to you, right? Track the nervous system states, attune, notice, and gently mirror emotional experiences. Work with the pacing and titration of the emotions so they stay in the window of tolerance. And do not force it, right? So to conclude, last 30 seconds. To conclude, self-compassion is not simply a skill to learn. Its inaccessibility is not resistance, but a reflection of nervous system capacity and how we feel to receive it, how safe we feel to receive it. Our work then is to build that capacity with clients, within ourselves, right? First within ourselves and then with our clients. Because clients really track when we feel like behaving not kind to ourselves. They can see it, so model it. And doing so, the therapeutic, okay, last sentence. In doing so, the therapeutic space itself becomes a place of deep care, presence, and transformation. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Didem. Wonderful. So many amazing presentations and being very present, and it's just amazing to witness. If you want to